Hello all and welcome to the channel. Today I am bringing you 10 games that are highly anticipated economic games for 2025. Now I've recently brought you my 2024 list and it was an okay year. There's a few highlights there, so let's see what this year can bring. So I am kicking off at number 10 here with a game from designer Reinier Knizia, which is why this had to just squeak into the list, because the look of this game, and it's called Merchants of Andromeda. I'm not particularly fond of what it looks like. There's a lot of colours, there's a lot going on, there's a lot of boards, but essentially I like a few of the key aspects. It's got this sort of political vibe where you can make these votes which change the game state. I've watched a bit of footage from the Dice Tower, and yes, this action selection seems cool. You've got one that you can use a card you place down for a resource, you got one you are placing down for its action, and then one you are having to auction off. So which one, the power state, are you going to give to your opponents, because you're going up various tracks for resources, you're going up other tracks to sort of see the flow of this story, and then you're putting votes in these little boxes as well, which looks kind of cool. So there's lots going on here. Complexity wise, it doesn't say what it is on the Geek as yet, and it has just gone through its Kickstarter, well, crowdfunding. Now that crowdfunding was sort of free mini games, all part of that package, so hopefully you can get this at retail at some point this year, later in the year, just as a standalone game. I'm not massively fond of what the cover art looks like and the whole game, but it's Reinier Knizia, and I love his, well, some of his designs. He's done some, really clever games out there with very few rule sets, so I'm just curious, and that is why he squeaked into the list. Now it's a 3 to 5 player game, so there's no 2-player option. 45 to 90 minutes, and there looks like quite a little bit going on with trying to figure out, what tracks you're going up, how you're going to score those points, what political sway, and who's got what. So yes, this squeaked in. Keep an eye out for it. That is Merchants of Andromeda. At number 9 then, we have a game which is by Spielworxx, and it's going to be part of a trilogy regarding Italian history. Now I'm going to absolutely butcher this name, Dolcemia Vita, so I'm liking the cover art. I've had my eye on this for about a year or so, and it's a 2 to 4 player game. It says it's going to take up to around 90 minutes, and you are essentially an industrialist in this sort of 1950s period after the war, with sort of economic growth, and you are, the standards of living for the population increasing, and you're selling like washing machines and TVs and all sorts of white goods there. And it's just basically about the flow of this national income. There's not too much on this one, and it just says you're exporting these to develop the stimulus for the development of the country. So I just like the economic description here. It's using a lot of buzzwords, a lot of things that sort of sound good. The look of it sounds good. The board, it looks a bit spreadsheety, but I like the color palette. So I'm excited to see what they do with this, with a big publisher behind it as well. And you've got the designer, I'm not really sure what he's familiar with, Gian Simone Magoni. So yes, curious about this one, and maybe it could go higher once I know a little bit more about it. Okay, next up we have an 18xx game, and where would this list be without an 18xx? So it's 1899 A Day Han, which is set in Korea this time. Now it's got the similar flow of 18xx, the stock rounds into the operating rounds, but I just like the look of the board on this one. It's got a bit more vibrant colours which are popping out, which is nice, and it's got a few twists on this one. It plays 3 to 5, it's on the longer playing count, player range there up to sort of 240 minutes, but it's got this interesting aspect where the trains, when they run, you can use this executive action to skip a location which normally hinders your game, where your opponent's company tokens are. So this has got a slight twist there. I like. Hasn't got too much on it. I believe its Kickstarter is already passed, so it's successful. It will be coming out. Just depends on availability, as you have to have certain print runs to be able to get these. But yeah, 1899, I think it's probably going to be on the 1830 type style, where you're transporting some of these goods as well as the usual goodness. So you've got to transport these and get in there, so corporations are competing over, those resources. It's not exclusive to you when you set up your company. So yes, I like the look of this one. Next up, we've got a game based around a very interesting theme, and this is called Davos. Now, this is an event that happens yearly, I believe, over somewhere in secret locations in Switzerland and things like that. It does vary, but it's where all politicians and economic forums and various corporations, leaders of these, all come together and allegedly make, these right decisions. But this is a game about that, which is unique. I've not come across anything like it. So it says you'll be improving the world by taking over the world. So it's got a little bit of deduction, it's got economic aspects, obviously, and a political bluffing vibe. So you're essentially placing your assets into either political sway to sway some of these decisions in, I think it's got China, the US and Europe and what have you. So you've got these areas you're trying to influence. You've also got these assets you can put into your corporation. So there's this balance of where is your, as an investor, you're going to make the most investments and the best decisions for your choice. So I like this sway. From what I've gathered so far, it's gone through its Kickstarter, it's crowdfunding, it's done really well, and hopefully this will be sort of coming to retail this year as well. So lots to like here. You're playing out this sort of 3 to 5 year time frame and just trying to manipulate and make the most money here. Now, it's brought to you by, who have we got? Martin Schneider and Marty Games. So I'm not too familiar with what they've done before, but yes, I like the concept of this one. So keep an eye out for Davos. Next up, we have got a game you guys are all familiar with, and it's Furnace, but this time it is dual. So they're bringing just a 2-player version now. I love the original game. You had to use the dummy player and use the 2-player, which kind of, is a little bit of admin to do. So this solely 2-player, which is nice. It's a lovely theme. I like the industrial look of this one and the engine building. This time it seems there's some slight tweaks. You're typically auctioning for the cards. Doesn't seem like there's the compensation on them, and it says you're kind of manipulating these player maps this time, which is nice. You've got variety. It says there's 6 of them, and you're trying to get to certain locations of these little trains to get various benefits and bonuses. So it's got this campaign mode added on as well. So I like what I hear, and I'm very curious. Now, got a little bit samey with the original one, so hopefully this sort of inspires a little bit more. And what I mean by that is, I played it a bunch, and it's kind of similar from game to game. Some people win with a very efficient strategy, depends what you can get hold of. So you have to really like that kind of abstract auction to the game. Sometimes you just kind of forget about the beautiful artwork because you're so busy looking at the symbols and trying to make these synergies. So for me, I wish this industrial look was on more games. It's great artwork. So just curious if this campaign lets you immerse yourself in that beautiful theme a little bit more, which might elevate this game for me. And that is Furnace Duel. Next up, we have a game called Digital Frontiers. Now, there's not a lot out there on this one, but essentially it says you are building, you're automating, you're upgrading and creating the most technological F&B empire, which is your food and beverage there. So not familiar with the designers, brought to you by 2D Design Games. It's on the heavier complexity, this one, sort of 90 to 120 minutes. Now, I'm not overly fond of this sort of pink font on the front cover, but look, it'll probably be developed as we go along. But what really sort of stood out for me is just it's got a lot more business vibes and terminology with just demand and supply and developing various departments of your business. And I like games like that, something like Ground Floor, where you can really make these sort of executive decisions. So hopefully we see more on this, and the look of it and the theme just sort of adds on to, this great summary and description they have given. So yes, this one caught my attention. I'm looking forward to seeing more. Next up, we have a game which is a re-implementation. It's called Smoky Valley, well, The Smoky Valley. Now, this game came out not too long ago. It looked very spreadsheety, and it's a heavier complexity game. So they've redone this version with some slight twists and add-ons. Now, I'm loving the cover art, a good old industrial look there. And in this one, you are elevating Griffintown as a prominent industrial hub in North America. And it's very similar to the one I've just gone through previously. It's by Spielberg, so they're busy bees this year. And it's just got a lot of interesting concepts, this developing your business again, developing, something like Burn and Brass, the sort of industrial vibe. But the actual board on the original looked very, as I've already said, number-based, very lots of different areas to go at, routes and paths and spreadsheet vibes. So I'm just hoping they've sort of made the board look a little bit, more inviting in this one. I've not played the original. It's actually been on my want list for a while now. So probably just going to venture over to this new reprint here. But yes, hopefully this one, I don't believe it's gone through crowdfunding just yet. We'll see more of this coming out later in the year. But yeah, keep an eye on the Smoky Valley. Okay, this next game is brought to us by the designers of Hegemony. What a fantastic game that was. And this is their sort of second in the line, and it's called World Order. Now, I have managed to play this one. It's a super game. It's about geopolitical dominance and attaining that influence across the board. Now, you do have things like little tanks out there, but it's not a war game. You've got this asymmetry of taking control of a nation and how you're going to use your political sway to develop your inflow of imports and how you're going to export. Are you going to do more military presence or establish those relationships with these alliances across the board in terms of nations? And I just loved the flow between the players. I was the US in my play, had a good hour and a half, tutorial and a chance to experience it. And it's a really solid game. Now, I was umming and ahhing whether to sort of put this on the list because it's already had its crowdfunding, it's due out soon, and I featured this highly on the list. But yes, it's coming out this year. Hopefully we can get it to retail and get some copies out there for you guys, so I speak as if I'm the one doing it, but no, I just, really want more people to experience this game. And for me, it's exciting that it plays solo. I think it's going to probably be more so for the 3 or 4 players. So, I kind of like games at 2 players. I'm not quite sure this is going to fit that, whereas Hegemony was more so. It's just more interactive and dynamic decisions in this amongst the nations. But I like what I see, and the board looks super. They're making some tweaks to it from last time I played it, and it just gives you that really good sense, something like Imperial 2030, but a lot more political sway here and those interactions between the nations there. So yes, World Order. So we're getting down to business here, the last 2 games, and this one caught my attention because the designer was a designer who made something called Panic on Wall Street, and this looks like a direct implementation of Wolf Street, and it's got this animal sort of look to it. You've got the typical bear and looks like some sort of octopus there, but if you're not familiar with a Panic on Wall Street, it's a super concept where you've got the managers who are competing to sell their businesses to the investors. So you've got 2 groups, so there's potentially 2 winners in this, and the investors are making those decisions, negotiating, bartering. You've got this sort of time aspect to where you've only got so long to do these dealings, and as you attain investment money and sell these businesses and sell all this stuff, you see who the winner is from each group there. So it was quite hard getting hold of the original game. I did own it, and it's just not very accessible out there in terms of print runs. So nice to see this coming back. In terms of how available this will be, hopefully it will get over to Europe and the UK and the US and what have you. So, it plays similar play range, 3 to 11. It's quick, 45 minutes, and it's just a different look on a Panic on Wall Street. So excellent to see this one getting some, back in the limelight essentially. So yes. And finally, a game I am very interested to see more. Now, it doesn't have the most information, and it says it's going to be web published, so no idea who the designers are. It's a bit of a gamble putting this as number 1, but what drew me to this game, and it's called Life and Beyond, it's just the notion of you are on a journey of personal growth and financial success. It says 2 to 3 players. It's on probably the heavier side. It's got sort of dice manipulation, and it says up to about 240 minutes. But what caught my attention is this notion of going on a journey through life and these decisions you take to, manipulate what maybe incomes and jobs and asset allocation you make. And for me, not really come across anything substantial in the hobby that is achieved that in an economic aspect. Obviously, there's been like the Life game, a more kid mass market thing we played when we were younger. There's been a few games, I can't remember the name of one of these other ones I've played. It was based off the Rich Dad Poor Dad, who made a game about your decisions in life and how you manage your income and your expenses. So there's a few out there, but they're not that exhilarating. So I'm hoping, the look of what they've achieved on the cover or here, the description sounds great. So I'm just more eager than any other game to see what this brings and whether it really takes you on that journey and evolution of your financial success and your maybe a payoff between work-life balance and time and just things we should probably all be more mindful of rather than the rat race. That's what it's called. It was the rat race, I think, that other game. So yes, Life and Beyond has made it to number 1 for me. Now, if I'm honest, it's always difficult. I do these lists every year, and some of the games, they just disappear into the ether, or they don't even show up for many years because they've not been fully, realised with their design. So all of these games I'm interested in, especially the top 5 here, and you can't really go wrong. It was very hard to pick and choose, but this one, Life and Beyond, just show me something different I've not seen before. So yes, there we are. Hopefully games that will keep you hunting and looking for what might be of interest to you this year, but looking like a solid year, and we'll see as we progress through. See you all soon.